sleep isn't just one thing. Sleep is primarily the good stuff is what we're gonna talk about here. Deep sleep and REM sleep. Everyone's probably heard of light sleep too. We of course are going through light to deep, light to REM throughout the night. But light sleep is kind of like scaffolding, where deep sleep and REM sleep are kind of like the construction. That's where all the good stuff is gonna happen. We need that light sleep to get it done. Excuse me, but without the light sleep, or without the deep and the REM, we're just not getting the physical restoration with deep sleep, and we're not getting mental, emotional restoration with REM sleep, without REM sleep. Deep sleep's primarily gonna happen in the first half of the night, REM sleep in the second half of the night. We'll kind of make sense of that here in a sec. But yeah, if you're not getting that physical restoration, you worked out hard, you're not getting your deep sleep, you're not making the most out of what you did here in the gym, if you're not getting REM sleep after you learned a new skill, whatever, you're just not gonna make the most out of that. This is a good representation of a normal night. 8 hours of sleep is kind of a nice baseline. Slightly less is reasonable, more is reasonable, but 8 is what people should generally be aiming for. This person goes to bed at 10 p.m., wakes up at 6 a.m. Normal night, totally fine. They're getting both halves of their restoration. But say they choose to stay up later, a couple hours, 1 hour, in this case it's 2 hours. If someone goes to a concert, stays out late with friends, they've chosen to lop off 2 hours of their deep sleep. 2 hours of sleep in general, that doesn't sound too bad. I'm still getting 6 hours of sleep, seems reasonable. But if you look at it in the way that it actually is, you've just lost half of your physical restoration for the night. So again, you spend all that time in the gym, you really are trying to make improvements, muscle mass, but you just lost half of the benefit that you expected. REM sleep, same thing, you wake up 2 hours early, same idea. You're definitely gonna be losing some of that quality, mental restoration, some of that emotional restoration. I mentioned caffeine earlier with my dad. That's gonna be another situation kind of like this. He's someone that if he's having caffeine at 6 p.m., caffeine has a quarter life of about 12 hours, meaning 12 hours after he's had that cup of coffee, he's still gonna have up to 25% of his of that caffeine still circulating. So 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., his entire night has had caffeine. He really didn't have a chance to get good quality deep sleep throughout that entire night. Wouldn't have mattered if, honestly, we're getting most of our deep sleep in the first half, so if he'd have had caffeine at 2 p.m., he's still really gonna be limiting his deep sleep, because in this case, his deep sleep's gonna end around 2 a.m. So caffeine's a big deal there, and yeah, he needs to recognize that, to understand that if he wants that quality deep sleep, he needs to stop it around, in his case, 10 a.m., so that immediately when he goes to bed, he can get that quality sleep. REM sleep, same situation, with alcohol, alcohol, THC, those are really gonna impact how much REM sleep someone's gonna be able to get. Different timeline on that. REM sleep is really affected by alcohol for a much longer period of time. Berkeley's sleep scientist says that if you don't want alcohol to affect your sleep, you should drink in the morning. Obviously that is a joke. I don't know how he would get anything done, but it's just to show that it's hard to get that quality sleep if you're consuming alcohol. That's not to say no one should be drinking. I certainly will have a drink or a few with my friends, friends and family. But it's about knowing what you're giving up. One night, that's fine. Every night, that becomes a bigger issue. The real issue with that is that catching up doesn't really work if you lost out on that sleep. But hey, I'm gonna sleep 16 hours on the weekend. You're not gonna get that back. You already missed out on the benefits that you needed from that day before. The good news is though, if you went home tonight and you just had the best sleep you've ever had, a lot of good positive changes do come from that immediately.